right, on your paper you need to copy down the definition of a pedigree. It is a family tree showing a genetic trait. So this is something that could be passed down from parents to children. It could be a physical trait like hair color or eye color or whether or not you could roll your tongue. But most of the time these are really used to study diseases in families to see whether or not the children have a chance of getting the disease that runs in their family. Pause this video while you copy that down if you need more time. I'm going to keep moving, so for each one of these, make sure you pause if you need to. All right, so the next part here tells you that the square is a male, which means that the squares all represent boys. The circles are female, which means they represent girls. And then there's a visual there that a student came up with for me one year, is that SpongeBob is a male, and he's square. And he has a friend in the show who wears a round bubble-shaped helmet, and that reminded that student of the circle for females. Please pause this while you write that down, and it would probably be a good idea to write down a note about male versus female, SpongeBob versus Sandy, if that reminds you. Great. Other students have said things like girls tend to be more curvy, so the circle reminds them of female in that sense. So whatever helps you remember is fine. Pause this until you're done. And then moving on, the shaded shapes. If you see any shapes that are kind of colored in, that shows people who have the trait that we're studying. So if it's a disease, the shaded in people have the disease. If it's a certain hair color, the people who are shaded have that hair color. Pause this until you're done writing. Okay, and then for generations, each new set of children is a new generation. So for example, if we have parents and their children, that shows 2 generations. If we have grandparents, parents, and their grandchildren, that's 3 generations. You don't have to write down both examples. You could write down one, or if you don't need either of them, you don't have to write down the examples if you don't want to. Pause this until you're done at least writing the main point, and if you want to add any examples, you can. All right, and then the last thing we want to add to the notes you already wrote. If we say grandparents, parents, and grandchildren, we could use Roman numerals to number those as generation 1 for grandparents, generation 2 for parents, and generation 3 for grandchildren. So you may want to write yourself a note as well so that you can look back on it later. We use Roman numerals to refer to generation numbers, and you could write down those examples that are highlighted for you in case you need to use them and you want to see what they should be. Okay, so this is just going to be a sample pedigree that we're going to be looking at, and we always have to start with a man and a woman because we're talking about having children. So we will start with a square for a man and a circle for a woman. What is in between them we're going to call a marriage line. Now these people don't have to be married, but it means that they have a relationship and there are going to be children. This is called the children line, and it can extend out. So I see there's the first child that was born, the second child that was born, and then the third child that was born here. So they have 3 kids. I can tell just from looking at that line. Now, if I look here, I can say that the first child is a boy, the second child is also a boy, and the third child is a girl. So that may be the case with any particular family. I would give them generation numbers, so generation 1, generation 2, and then we number the people in each generation from left to right. So this is person 1 and person 2. And the next generation, this would be person 1, 2, and 3. Now sometimes it gets a little funny if we have somebody get married. I'm going to take out those numbers there. Let's say that this middle child got married. So we have a new girl in the picture. And they end up having 2 children. Then let's say the first child is a girl and the second child is a boy. Now we have generation 3 that is shown up. But now when I go to number each person in the second generation, I start here 1, 2, this person becomes number 3, and this girl now becomes person number 4. In the third generation, we just have person 1 and 2. Now, if I refer to these people, if I say person 3, 2, if I'm looking for that particular person, person 3, 2, well, when I look for generation 3 at the bottom and person 2. This would be that person. So now if I go back and I say, now I want to find person 1, 1. If I'm looking for that person, I look for generation 1, which is up here at the top. And I look for person 1, which is, which is right here. Okay, so this would be the person I was looking for. Paste that up. Now, the one other thing I want to show you is that when we are studying a particular trait, we shade it in. So you're going to see gray or black shaded in shapes sometimes. So if we looked at this pedigree and we said that this person up at the top was shaded in, it means they have the disease that we're studying, or they have the trait, the eye color, or whatever it is that we're studying. Now, if I said that both of his sons also are affected by the trait, think about that. Who are his sons? You have to go down the blue line to find his kids. He's got 3 kids, not 4. We know that she's not one of his kids. And now I said only the sons are affected by the trait, so that means I have to look for the boys. Think about what shape boys are. Since boys are squares, like SpongeBob is a square, we're going to shade in the 2 boys, since they are also affected by the trait. And now we may also tell you that the granddaughter, which means it's in the third generation, lowest down, the granddaughter, since it's a girl, it's going to be a circle. We're going to shade in this circle right here.